So I really like to say that they've got to first figure out what they want. I oftentimes will walk them through a process to create what I call a vision into action business plan. If you had a magic wand and you could wave it and go 10 years from now, what do you want that to look like?
This episode is sponsored by TherapyNotes, therapynotes.com. Be sure and check them out and be sure and use the promo code Gordon, Gordon, and you can try them out for 2 months for free. Over 15 years ago, when I started my private practice, I had to learn a lot, and most of it the hard way, and I don't think you need to do the same. Hi, I'm Gordon Brewer, a licensed psychotherapist, and welcome to the Practice of Therapy podcast, part of the Psychcraft network of podcasts. Join me in this journey of discovery as we have conversations with other leaders and professionals in both the mental and allied health fields. Join us as we explore both the business and clinical sides of running a private practice. Welcome to the podcast, and this is episode number 303 of the Practice of Therapy podcast. I'm Gordon Brewer. Glad you've joined me for this episode. I'm looking forward to you hearing my conversation with Andrea Liebross. It's one of those things that it's a topic that comes up a good bit when I'm doing consulting with folks. And I know for Andrea, who's also a consultant, this topic comes up. And that's just really thinking about what is your direction and purpose in your private practice. I think when we reach a place where we're maybe feeling a little burned out or feeling like we are, just getting tired of the old day-to-day, I think it's a good idea to kind of assess that and discern that. Of really kind of getting back to the basics is what I call asking, what is your why? Why are you doing this? And what is the purpose in it all? And so that's what our conversation is about. And Andrea gives some great tips on how to overcome all this. So I'm looking forward to you hearing from Andrea in this particular episode. But before we get to that, real quickly, one of the things that I'd like to invite you to do is go over and check out the Instagram templates that my good colleague Rachel has put together. It's 50 different templates that you can download from our Gumroad store. They're only $22 for the whole package, and they are templates that you use in Canva. So you can add your logos, and they're ready-made and ready to go. So go check those out. I'm sure we're going to be coming out with some more marketing things like this. That's Rachel's forte, and she does a great job with all of that. And quick secret here, she's the one that does all of my social media posts for me. So Rachel, shout out to you. And also, before we get over to my conversation with Andrea, I'd love for you to check out one of the new kind of endeavors I've been helping with, been a consultant on, or just helping a friend out. My good friend Ashley has started an Etsy store, and she's really focused on the whole topic of mental health and mental health professionals and recovery, addiction recovery, and that sort of thing. So she's put together some really cute t-shirts. This time of year, she's got Christmas ornaments that are out there that can inspire people, but also they make great gifts for your staff if you got staff, and she can custom make pretty much anything that you can think of. So she's willing to work with you on that and get that out there. That's what I'm going to be doing this year. I hope my staff isn't listening to it too much, but she's going to be putting together some things for them for gifts for the holidays. So anyway, go check that out at practiceoftherapy.com/mental health wear. Oh, and I didn't mention the Instagram post URL, practiceoftherapy.com/ Insta templates. So go check those two things out. And so here, before we get to my conversation again with Andrea, I'd love for you to hear from one of the members of the Sightcraft Network, along with a message from our sponsor of the podcast, TherapyNotes.
Hi, everyone. We are Dr. Melissa Thiessen
and Dr. Karen Dick
of Intentional Therapist and hosts of the podcast Thrivival 101, a fresh take on self-care for female mental health clinicians.
As mental health clinicians, we all know that self-care is important, and yet ironically, we often struggle with it ourselves. Even worse, we tend to do this in silence because who wants to admit we might be struggling?
Well, here's the thing. There are unique factors about our training, our work, and our gender socialization that contribute to this very real and normal struggle with self-care. The good news is that together we can break the silence and lessen the struggle.
We created Thrivival 101 to help us all do just that. Through our 4 C's framework, connection, compassion, courage, and creativity, and interviews with other like-minded clinicians, we will help you redefine your concept of self-care, find a supportive community, and start taking steps towards putting you back in your schedule.
So you can learn more about us at intentionaltherapist.ca and can find Thrivival 101 through the Sightcraft Network and wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Have you ever wished your private practice could run as smoothly as a well-oiled machine? Well, look no further because TherapyNotes is here to revolutionize your practice. TherapyNotes is the complete practice management system you've been dreaming of. With everything you need to manage patient records, schedule appointments, meet with clients remotely, create rich documentation, and handle insurance billing, it's your secret weapon for a smoother practice. And the best part? It's accessible wherever and whenever you need it. Yep, even on the go. Imagine having more time for what truly matters, your clients. It's like having an extra set of hands, but digital. And here's the kicker. It's the very EHR Gordon relies on in his own practice. So, you know it's the real deal. Say goodbye to paperwork nightmares and hello to more time and better quality care. Check out TherapyNotes today at practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes. Oh, and don't forget to use the promo code GORDON to get 2 months free. That's practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes with the promo code GORDON. Enjoy the show.
Well, welcome everyone again to the podcast, and I'm looking forward to you hearing from Andrea Liebross. Welcome, Andrea.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, and Andrea's a fellow podcaster, I found out, so she's got her own podcast. But Andrea is, I start with everyone. Why don't you tell folks a little more about yourself and how you've landed where you've landed?
Sure. So yes, I do have a podcast. It's called Time to Level Up, and you can find it on any of your favorite podcast players. But when I'm not recording a podcast, I am working with entrepreneurial women, small business owners, to help them really, what I like to say, create their own secret sauce for success. So really embrace both the right mindset and systems in order for them to move past what sometimes seems kind of heavy, like I call it the messy middle, into more of their zone of genius or their zone of extraordinary achievement, where they're really doing what they want to be doing in terms of helping themselves grow, helping the world be a better place, all of those things. And I'm also about to release a book in the fall of 2023 called She Thinks Big, the entrepreneurial woman's guide to moving past the messy middle and into the extraordinary. Right. So I have a coaching practice where I work with these entrepreneurial women and business owners, and we figure it out. We figure it out how so that they don't have to feel like they're just on a hamster wheel, because that's not a good feeling.
Right. Yeah. And true confession time here are a little bit of disclosure. One of the things that I'm not known for doing is being very well organized. And I think for me, and I think a lot of us in this therapy world, we do a lot of stuff off the cuff. And I think that as we were talking about before we started recording, I think that is one of the things that keeps us stuck, is we don't really have a good sense of direction or purpose in what we're doing. So, yeah. So,
and I think a lot
about that. Yeah.
With a lot of therapy, it has along with coaching, right? We're used to kind of going with the flow or using what the client or patient brings to the session as our material in order to help them, right? So we do kind of just work off the cuff a lot in our craft. So I think when you take your therapist or coach hat off and you put your business owner hat on, that same sort of just going with the flow doesn't work.
Yeah.
Doesn't work for long. Let's put it that way.
Right. And you'll get stuck. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So in your work with people, what's kind of your process of helping them through all of this?
So I really like to say that they've got to first figure out what they want. And this is really a lot harder than it looks. I oftentimes will walk them through a process to create what I call a vision into action business plan. Mm-hmm. So the first page, it's actually a 2-page document in the end. That's what we end up with. But that first page is really about vision. And I ask them, hey, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it and go 10 years from now, what do you want that to look like? And I mean, the stares and blank faces I get, if I had a dime for everyone, I'd be a millionaire. Mm-hmm. But it's really hard for us to figure that out or to even just allow ourselves to go to that place. So I walk them through a process where we figure out, okay, what do they want 10 years to look like? What do they want 3 years to look like? And in that discussion, we also talk about, what do you want to focus on? Like, yes, you could help every patient known to mankind, every person known to mankind you could help, but who do you really want to help? So I had a practice owner last week who I walked through this exercise, and really what she wants to do is more equine therapy. Mm-hmm. She wants patients out in the barn or on the ranch with her. And that's where she wants to focus her practice. But yet, then she's like, yeah, but I have a brick and mortar office. I've got 4 other therapists, So I said to her, yeah, but what do you really want to do? And what she really wants to do is she wants to do that equine. So we started to talk about that and what that would look like and what she needs to do this quarter, this year, over the next 3 years to get herself to that place. And it's not going to take 10 years to get there. She could get there this year, but kind of breaking it down. So what's your vision? And then what are the actions you're going to take that are going to fuel or support your vision? And when we get to that place, a lot of times we're very short-sighted in the sense of, oh, I need to do more social media, or I need to send out a newsletter, or I need to maybe create a group coaching or group therapy opportunity. All those things, yes, let's do them. But how are we going to do them? What are they? Are they building blocks? Are they still fueling our long-term vision? And is that really something that you, practice owner, should be doing, or should you be outsourcing it? Mm-hmm. So even though you can create a social media post and you can enroll people into a group coaching opportunity or group therapy opportunity, is that your zone of genius, or do we need to outsource this? And then of course it comes in like, well, that's going to cost money. And so then we can go down a whole other trail, but really helping them understand or get a grasp on what their vision is and then how to put it into action. It's kind of a 2-part thing. And it ends up really being a working document that if we continue to work together, I'm going back to that continuously. Every session we're pulling it out. Where are we on this? What's happening? What's getting in your way? Where's your roadblock?
Yes. How do you help people kind of prioritize what they need to take action on first?
Good question. So I say a couple things. Number one, what's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck, so to speak? What's going to move the needle the most? Okay. And in doing this, you kind of have to assess, is whatever this is it moving me or my business forward? There's a couple questions you have to ask. So let's say they say yes. Okay. How do you feel when you're doing it? Does this light you up, or is this something you dread? I like to say, is it a power generator or a black hole?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's say it's a power generator. Let's just say yes. I like doing this. Okay. Are you the only person in the world that can do it? Well, no, I'm really probably not the only person in the world. Okay. So we've identified, yes, it's going to move your business forward. Yes, you like doing it, but no, you're not the only person in the world. So if we kind of think about that, okay, it's probably something that should get done, but maybe the next step on that, the next best step, I always say, what's the next best step, is you finding someone else to do it. Do you have an admin? Can you hire just a freelancer? So that's the task, not the create the social media post, for example, but the task is actually finding that other person.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something that, yes, it's going to move their business forward, but it's a black hole, like they dread it, they hate it, is it something that you need to know how to do? And most of the time, the answer is actually no. Like, well, I mean, I could learn how to do it, but most of the time the answer is no. Okay, so can I go back to the same question then? If it's something that's going to move our business forward and it's going to give us a huge bang for a buck, then again, do we need to outsource it? So I kind of walk them through a series of questions that help them identify what their next best steps are. A lot of times too, it comes down to the fact that they don't really have a good handle on their finances.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. So that's a whole other topic. And a lot of times where they need to spend the most time right up front, if they're trying to move forward or grow, is getting a handle on that. And mm-hmm. we do a little bit of talking around what's the difference between a CPA and a bookkeeper. And what is cash flow? Like, do you even understand mm-hmm. the concept of cash flow? Because QuickBooks is great, but it's all after the fact. Mm-hmm. So what's preventing you from moving forward in some of these things is probably you don't have the confidence that you have the cash flow to support them. But that's just your thought. Like, that's not a fact mm-hmm. necessarily. You've never really looked at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you bring up some really good things in that. I think one in my work with folks, just in doing some consulting with folks, I know one of the things that people really struggle with is outsourcing.
Yeah.
Being able to recognize that, okay, my time is better spent on things that are going to move the needle forward rather than those things that drag it down. And I'm, again, true confession here. I'm the world's worst in doing that. Oh, it's just easier. I know what I want to do. Just let me do it, and I'll go do it. But then I eat up all this time doing those things when really I should have been spending my time on something in a different way.
Yeah. So you could do it. Okay. Mm-hmm. You're capable, or you'll figure it out, right? Mm-hmm. You can figure anything out now. But is that something that you and only you can do? I mean, you are the only one that can serve your particular patients right now. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's what you should be doing. Or you're the only one that can assess whether or not you should hire another therapist. And actually, you're the only one that could even figure out who to outsource to, in a sense. Mm-hmm. Right. So we get into a place as business owners, it's I call it the messy middle, right? So things are going along, like nothing's really broken. Okay. Nothing's gone wrong, but yet you're just kind of at status quo. Like you're kind of stuck, or you're in what I like to call stuck stress. And when we're in stuck stress, we can't really access our genius brains. It gets actually more intense as time goes on, as you think about like finances, for example, right? It gets heavier and heavier. And in order to move past that into what I call progress stress, you do have to kind of switch from just being interested in maybe hiring someone, or interested in learning the new skill, to committed. Right? So a lot of us are interested in some of this stuff, but we're not committed to making it happen. Like my client last week, she's definitely interested in growing this equine portion of her business, but is she committed? She comes up with 1,000 excuses as to why she can't be committed. Right? But if she could switch her mindset from just being interested to committed, I will bet great things will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it goes back to what you said earlier. I think is really, really honing in on what is it that you really want? What is it that you really, what is your overarching goal, or what is your goal around all of this stuff? And people hear from me all the time. What is your why? Why are you doing any of this?
Yes. Yes. So in my book, I actually created a tool. I call it's in the toolkit called Are You Operating in Your Zone of Extraordinary Achievement? So that's kind of figuring out, is this whatever you want to do worth it? It's kind of a question, helps you work through questions. But going back to what you want, you have to really access your future you. You've got to access that person that's not living in the moment, but living 5 or 10 years from now. And I like to say, go ask that person, because they'll tell you what you want. They'll tell you, like, that's the person, the future you, not the present you, certainly not the past you. The past can be a teacher, but it's not a fortune teller. Right? You really got to go to the future you, but we get too caught up in the past yous. Like, well, I just know myself. I just know that if I do this, then that will happen. Or in the past, I've attempted to manage some of this stuff myself, and it just never works out. Okay. Right. So there's the past you. The present you doesn't really know either, because if they did, they'd be doing it. Okay. So you've got to go to that future you. And I have a whole chapter about that, actually. You've got to go to that future you and ask them. Or I like to say sometimes it's like, iPhones come out with the next version, the Gordon 2.0, right? The Andrea 2.0, not the Andrea 1.0. She's good. So, but doing that, it's hard to do unless you've got someone kind of prompting you or asking you questions, because you're stuck in your own little peanut butter jar. Like you're in there, you're stuck and you can't see what's going on.
Yeah. The other thing that you mentioned, I think, is it's doing kind of an inventory of what are those things that energize you versus those that suck the energy out of you.
Yes.
And paying attention to that. Yeah.
Right. So what are power generators for you? Like what lights you up? Okay. What's a power producer for your business? And if it's not a power producer or power generator, is it a black hole? Is it a shiny object? Is it something that distracts you? Is it something that you're not really interested in, but yet you think you should be? Yeah. And that never works out either.
Yeah.
So assessing that is very important, because it's kind of like your energy meter in a sense. Like picture like your gas gauge, right? Is this something that you're going to put, you're going to accelerate on, or is it going to pull you back and you're going to go really slow below the speed limit? Those are all valid questions. And just because you're capable or you can learn doesn't mean that it's something you should be spending energy on or be doing yourself.
But something came up at an interview I did earlier with someone, and it was alluding to all of the shoulds and ought tos. In other words, we have this idea that, this is what I should be doing or what I ought to be doing, but that might not line up with what you really want for yourself.
Right. So I call that like shoulding on yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And usually the shoulds are really kind of just another way they're just another way to say limiting beliefs. Like I should be doing this, versus the truth is a liberating truth could be, I could be doing this, but I'm choosing not to. Right. So kind of shifting things that you're limiting yourself in terms of how you want to use your resources. And I say your four most valuable resources are time, money, relationships, and brain power. And brain power probably is the most valuable. So is this something that you're telling yourself you should be doing, which is kind of keeping you, below, like right, maybe at the speed limit versus something that that energizes you or you want to be doing, or that's going to move things farther along faster. You're going to accelerate. Right. And the truth usually comes out if you can assess what's going on to keep you in that place.
Right. Yeah. So, kind of going back to something you said earlier, just about around goal setting. And I know from looking at some of the things that you've got on your website, one of the things that comes up is, as a matter of fact, fun fact here, I saw that you were on the Focus on This podcast at one time. And I listen to them all the time. And in fact, I've got my Michael Hyatt planner here. And
me too. I have mine right next to me too.
Yeah, the full focus planner. So, so one of the things that Michael Hyatt talks about is smarter goals versus smart goals.
Yes.
You want to say more about that?
Sure. So yes, I am a full focus certified pro. I'm a big Michael Hyatt fan. And actually I just recorded, Gordon, a second podcast with Focus on This. So I don't know when it's coming out sometime soon.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Smarter goals. So smarter goals. I think the two letters in smarter that we really need to pay attention to are maybe three. E is exciting. Okay. So the E stands for exciting. If this isn't exciting to you, if it doesn't light you up, right? If it doesn't generate power, you're probably either A, not going to do it, or B, continue to drag it along month after month, day after day, right? Thinking you're going to eventually do it. So it needs to be exciting. It needs to have energy going into it. I think the R's are very important too. So risky and relevant. So let's talk to relevant first. Relevant really means, in how I interpret it, is in this season of life, in this time frame, is it really relevant? Okay. So I've got some of my clients say, you know what? I really wish that I could just work one day a week. Okay. So, all right, you totally could just work one day a week. It would be absolutely possible. But right now, in this season, when you want to double your revenue, is that going to happen? Okay. No, it's not relevant right now. Or they'll say, hey, I want to move to Florida. I want to spend the winter in Florida and the summer in Tennessee. Okay. You have 3 school-age children. Is that really relevant right now? No. Okay. So that's one R. The other R is risky. And I think that's a little more exciting. But risky is you kind of pushing yourself past the point of resistance. So I always like to say all of your goals, you should have a little bit of resistance to. It's not something that you're just going to do on a daily basis, for example. Like your goal should not be to drink 64 ounces of water a day. That's more of a habit in a sense, right? That can fuel the goal to become healthier. Okay. But if it's got to be a little risky. There's no risk also in drinking the 64 ounces of water, right? So goals have to have a little bit of a risk. So in writing this book, I think it was kind of risky. I didn't really realize how risky it was when I started. I didn't realize that. But there's so many pieces of that puzzle, and it opened up so many kind of cans of worms in a good way that it was very risky. I had to address a lot of things within my business, even that kind of, if the book was going to go along with it, what was I really doing? So risky and exciting and relevant gets a close third. The others are, more typical, measurable, specific, actionable, timely.
Yeah.
But think about relevant, risky, and exciting.
Yeah, I think, and the exciting part is, I think something that people need to pay attention to. If it's something that's not exciting for you, probably should be outsourcing that. If it's something,
and even It could be like your goal could be, I'm going to retire in 10 years, or I'm going to sell this practice in 10 years. And that can be exciting, and that's okay. And so we're going to work towards how we're going to prepare for that. But right. So it doesn't have to be some like grand growth kind of goal. It can be, I'm going to retire, sell the business. Okay. That's exciting.
Right. Wow. Well, this is great stuff, Andrea. Now, and I got to be respectful of your time. Tell folks how they can get in touch with you and find out more about the things that you're doing.
Sure. So I'm on all the social medias. So that's number one, Andrea.Liebross.coaching on Instagram is probably my best one. Go listen to the Time to Level Up podcast. Just search that. And if you want to explore more about the book, or what I read more about what I'm doing, schedule a call, all of that, you can go to Andrea's with an S, links with an S, andreaslinks.com. And that will direct you to the website, to the book, to all the things. So Andrea's with an S, links with an S.com. And if you are a full focus planner person, there is a quiz at Andrea's Links that helps you figure out what your productivity archetype is. Like when are you the most productive? So you might find that fun.
That's great. I'm going to check that out for sure.
Yeah.
So, well, we'll have all of this in the show notes and the show summary for people to find it easily. Andrea, it's so good to get to know you, and I'm glad we had this conversation, and hope we can do it again. Well, big thanks again to Andrea for being on the podcast. And that was pretty big deal for me to find out that she's also a full focus user and has been on the Michael Hyatt podcast. That was just, that's pretty big doings in my mind. But anyway, thanks again to Andrea. And if you're interested in the full focus planner, I've got a page up for that. And it's just simply at practiceoftherapy.com/full focus planner. And just full disclosure, that is an affiliate link or affiliate page. So I do get a commission if you decide to use that planner. I love mine. And on that page, it goes into a lot of details about how it's used and helping you in your productivity. But anyway, and thanks again to Andrea. Also check out her books. And you can find links here in the show notes and the show summary for that. So, yeah, I hope to have Andrea back on the podcast here before too long. And also, real quickly before you go, be sure and check out our sponsor, TherapyNotes. And if you'll go to practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes, they are who I use in my practice. Couldn't do without them. It's a wonderful platform, and it's well worth it. You definitely get your ROI, your return on investment, by using them. I can't say enough about how helpful their platform is in keeping me organized. As I said earlier, I'm not a naturally organized person, but the way it's laid out and all of the different features of TherapyNotes just makes running your practice so much easier, particularly with intakes and documentation and all of that. So be sure and check it out. practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes, and be sure and use that promo code Gordon, GORDON, to try them out for 2 months for free. And also be sure and check out the Instagram templates that we've put together, practiceoftherapy.com/Insta templates. And finally, be sure and check out the Mental Health Wares Etsy store that's being done by my friend Ashley. And if you'll go to practiceoftherapy.com/mental health wares, that's a link that'll get you over to the store. So be sure and check it out. Take care, folks. Got lots of good interviews coming up as we start to wind down 2023. That's hard to believe. Was looking at the calendar, and as I'm recording this, we've got everything filled in for the rest of the year. So if you're thinking about, if you are interested in being a guest on the podcast, by the way, next year, you can go to practiceoftherapy.com/podcast list or podcast.
Yeah, that's it. practiceoftherapy.com/podcast. And you'll find a link for an application on that page to possibly be a guest on this particular podcast. I love having conversations with people. So take care, folks. Have a good rest of your week or weekend. You've been listening to the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer, part of the PsychCraft network of podcasts. You can find out more about the other great podcasts in the network by visiting psychcraftnetwork.com. And if you haven't done so already, please visit us at practiceoftherapy.com and get your free private practice startup guide, along with a lot of other great resources and webinars and free things just by visiting. Also, be sure to follow us wherever you might be listening to your podcasts. This podcast is intended to be educational in purpose and is not intended to give legal, accounting, or counseling advice. If you need a professional, find the right person for that.